about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So these horrific issues that we have been seeing as it pertains to our flight safety is going to result in lawsuits sooner than later. And it sounds like the first of many have already been filed. One of the D.C. plane crash victims' family members has filed claims against the Army and the FAA, and this is for $250 million. One of the victims was in the deadly Washington, D.C. collision with the Black Hawk helicopter, and they have filed claims against the FAA and the U.S. Army worth $250 million. The wife of Casey Crafton was a 40-year-old husband and father who was on board the American Airlines flight. The wife of Casey is suing, listing $50 million for personal injury and $200 million for wrongful death. They say the claims are the first step in a process outlined by the Federal Tort Claims Act, which allow people to sue the federal government for injury, death, or loss of property. This is according to The Independent. That would be difficult. I don't know how to come up with the number. I mean, but you know, people always are shocked by, what are they suing for? What are they suing for? And it's not necessarily the family member that's coming up with the number. It's the attorney, and it's what's the maximum amount? What are the limits? So my guess is this isn't obviously about the money. She wants her husband back, but yes, they have a lawsuit. They have a huge lawsuit. So we're being told by The Independent that the government has 6 months to respond to these forms from the Federal Tort Claims Act. And if they reject them or don't take action within that time, Mrs. Crafton will have the right to file federal lawsuits within 2 years. Now, the attorney, Robert Clifford, told The Independent that I expect they'll ignore this entirely and never respond, which is therefore a denial, or they'll wait 5 months and 29 days to deny it because they never accepted and confess error. Now, Crafton worked for an aviation consulting firm, was returning from a business trip from Wichita, Kansas, when he was killed in the crash, along with everybody else on board the aircraft, including children, people coming back from a U.S. figure skating camp. So, seeing the lives lost, just tragic. All 64 people on board the American Airlines jet and 3 people on board the Black Hawk helicopter died when their aircrafts collided over the Potomac River on January 29th. Now, the National Transportation Safety Board is still leading an investigation into the crash. They're still investigating it. We are expected to get something in the next week or two, but they say a final report could take 1 to 2 years. And so it's just, it's tragic. Anything like this could happen. And the lawsuits happen, and understandably so. Look, I'm in the medical field. So we've seen doctors get sued when patients die. And if there is fault and negligence, that lawsuit moves forward. If it was an act that nobody could have had control over, then no. And so, we want the lives back, but it's not, sadly, doesn't happen. The Delta plane crash where the individual survived in Toronto, the passengers, all right, that survived that flight that flipped on its side, they are going to be getting some money from Delta Airlines. How much? Delta Airlines is offering $30,000 to each person. Now, $30,000. That's better than a voucher for another flight on the airlines, which some flights have done. Say, we know you had a bad experience, so here's a flight. These people almost lost their lives. But Delta is offering $30,000. As you remember, the plane skidded over the weekend along the runway in flames. To me, it's like the landing gear didn't hold, and then it hit the ground, flipped towards the right, knocked off the wing, and then flipped over. We still don't know what caused the incident, why, but 76 passengers and four crew were on that flight. Thank God they lived. They were traveling from Minneapolis to Toronto. And a spokesperson for Delta said the money offer had no strings attached, did not affect their customers' rights. So I don't believe that would limit the victims of that to sue. So it's not like an NDA or hush money. Toronto law firm Rochon Genova said that they had been retained by certain passengers and their families over the crash landing. Another lawyer, Vincent Genova, said the group expected a timely and fair resolution, highlighting that his clients suffered personal injuries of a serious nature that required hospital attention, not to mention PTSD, anxiety, and other issues. So Mr. Genova said the $30,000 compensation is an advance payment, meaning to assist plane crash victims with short-term financial challenges, and the airline will seek to deduct it from any later settled claims. Now, there was, back in 2013, according to BBC News, Asiana Airlines, who offered passengers of a San Francisco plane crash $10,000 in initial compensation. Last year, American Airlines gave $1,500 to those passengers who remember where the door blew out on a flight from Portland. So they gave everybody $1,500. So now 21 passengers from that flight that flipped in of the 76 passengers, 21 had to go to the hospital. We've been told all of them have been released. So thank God all survived. But wow. And we have some breaking news. We're told passengers among an American Airlines flight were warned to brace for impact after the jet reported an emergency on board. Now, from what I understand, they landed safely. But there were brake issues and everybody had told them to brace for impact on the plane. Wow. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, YouTube, click like and subscribe. And if you ever miss our show, go to drdaliah.com. So this is interesting. I want to bring this up. I was talking about the the Saturday Night Live 50-year special, and I love the Adam Sandler era of Saturday Night Live with Rob Schneider and Chris Farley, and some of you love the Chevy Chase era or whatever era you would watch it in. I've never seen a full show. I've seen skits because it just was too long, too late at night. I was always too busy. And sometimes the skits weren't funny and it got boring. But when I think of Saturday Night Live, I think of Chevy Chase, I think of John Belushi, I think of Adam Sandler and Eddie Murphy. I think of some amazing talent that were on there. So, yeah, I watched the 50-year special, and it was some parts were good, some parts were completely not funny, and I really wanted to see the audition videos. Of Amy Poehler and the audition videos, and you could get those online. But one of you had written, after I talked about that, is how it made you throw up and how you were really sickened by seeing the whole Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds thing. And I haven't really talked about the whole Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni issue. I don't really get involved, with all these entertainment drama type things. Although, I was very intrigued by the whole Johnny Depp, Amber Heard issue with the poo-poo on the bed and how that poo-poo could not have been the dog's. And, we talked about the diameter of the poo-poo and the constipation and all that other stuff. So I do sometimes comment on celebrity type stuff. But I guess one thing that this listener touched upon, that a lot of people touched upon, is we have these movie stars that we end up loving, thinking they are amazing because we fall for their persona, their character. Brad Pitt, pretty cool. George Clooney, suave. Ryan Reynolds with his Deadpool, likable. Ryan Reynolds is very likable on screen. But then their real life, stories come out and it starts to kind of rattle your faith. Well, your faith should have never been about idolizing humans that are playing a character and acting. But we do that. I don't know much about Blake Lively. She could be a lovely person. But from what I'm understanding, what's happening between Justin Baldini and her, and I never really saw the movie or whatever show they were in. I really am not into a lot of, like lovey-dovey type movies. I like some rom-coms, but I'm just not, into that. From what we're hearing, the people involved might not be the most, shall we say, ethical and ideal, and acting with the most, shall we say, kindest of intents. And there were other actors who had worked with Ryan Reynolds who said that it was, he was mean, he was this, and it could just be sour grapes. I am sure in Hollywood, everybody kind of gets on each other's nerves and is in competition with them. So I don't know much. I love Ryan Reynolds movies. I think he is a great comedian. I'm a huge fan. From a personal standpoint, I don't know anything about him, but I think people are starting to look at many of these individuals who were idolized as, look at what happened with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, one of the highest paid, most popular song artists, highly decorated and awarded song artists, got almost booed out the stadium during the Super Bowl. Now, was it because of her political leanings and and broadcasting her choice? Was it the cat picture, or was it that she's dating a Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles didn't like her? But wow, I've never seen Taylor Swift booed, not to that degree. And so I think America is starting to look at these individuals who are put on a pedestal as, they're humans and they have good qualities. They got bad qualities. We don't really need to idolize them and make them gods or goddesses when they aren't. There's been a lot of criticism of Alec Baldwin having this TV show about him. And, I get Alec Baldwin, a very gifted actor. But how many times has he got caught saying homophobic things or politically incorrect things or getting into fights with people? He doesn't look like he's a very pleasant person off screen. So maybe they're making this whole reality TLC TV series for them. But the latest thing that happened is he's involved in the murder of, although he was acquitted of criminal charges, the civil suits are, I believe, starting, but of the photographer director that when he was on the New Mexico set of the movie Rust, which I believe they're still going to put out there because there was a lot of money put into it. He's a producer, and they're going to need money for all the civil suits. And Hilaria, his wife, beautiful woman, but she went through her thing with the fake accent, and she's from Boston, and people called her out going, why are you doing this fake accent? And I don't watch a lot of these reality shows. I watched Pawn Stars because I was on it for multiple episodes, but I don't really watch a lot of these reality TVs because they try to make something bigger than it is. How many people have you seen become these stars? And they have, 1/1000th the talent of your niece or nephew. You're like, how are these guys always out there? Well, money makes money. Connections put you back out there. So now there's this, like Meghan Markle. I'm just kind of blown away by all of that. So I think people are changing. I think also the idea of, Beyonce supporting Kamala Harris, it wasn't enough to make Kamala Harris win. People like Beyonce. Beyonce is very talented. But did people really care? Does it really matter to have these celebrity endorsements? And maybe what's going to happen with Hollywood is people are going to shift and start understanding that the regular people, some of them are disgusting and not good individuals. Some of them have committed crimes. Some of them are not really worthy of our dollars. People wonder why people are going back to the movies. Was it because of COVID? No, I don't think they're fearing COVID in the movie theater. It's they don't want to spend that kind of money. And, they don't want to reward crappy movies. I had such high hopes for Barbie. Barbie could have been such an amazing start of a series of all these adventures Barbie goes on and kind of superhero type stuff. But she had, and instead it was all crying and political. People don't want to spend the money on that. Oppenheimer, it was a well done movie, but it was boring. I expected to see more, war and it was, I think, it was a good movie, but it was boring. And so some people are like, look, I'd rather see it at home when I could stop, go to the bathroom, take a break, and not have to sit there for 2-3 hours. So, this accent thing with Hilaria, accents are interesting. I don't blame her for an accent coming through because sometimes my accent comes through. Accents will come through. It happens. Some of us also will pick up accents and then we'll speak in that. And so some of us are very accent fluid, but to pretend you're non-American, to pretend English isn't your native language, it's fake. And people don't want to see fake. They want to know that Ryan Reynolds is really that cool, that humble, that funny. And when you hear that there's this back and forth of people trying to ruin each other, and it really ruins it for you. And we're all humans. Some humans get blessed with some great jobs and great opportunities in Hollywood, and then they become multimillionaires. And some of us are graced and blessed with a great family and a middle-class income, and we'll take what we can get. But, don't ask me to spend extra money or spend hours of my day staring at somebody being fake, especially when the story sucks. How many movies have we gone to where we're like, really? That's the best they could do? That's the ending? Come on. And I love it when I see somebody put some work into the story. And I'll tell you guys, if I see something great, I'm like, they did a really good job. That storyline was fantastic. But all these remakes and sequels, we're watching a lot of crap, and I'm done with it. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
On the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. So an issue that's been brought up over the years, and we've spoken about this before, is how not to make retirement and going into your golden years so depressing. And a lot of people will fear that they're going to be like their parents or grandparents, where they're older and they're just riding the clock out till they go to heaven. If you have family members going to heaven, I don't know if I get to go to heaven. I hope I do. And so people will look at their previous family members as it was the family was waiting for them to just go and leave. And they then look at their retirement as that's the last step to you finishing your final chapter. And it doesn't have to. Retiring is a whole new chapter. It's a whole new book. But people don't see it like that. They think they can't work anymore. They have to now make less money. They have to watch every penny they have. And now they got to make sure they don't get sick and fall or die too soon. Well, of course you're depressed about it. So we need to really rethink and change up what retiring is. Now, I'm a workaholic, so I never plan on retiring. I'm going to just continue to work. Not to mention, I don't see how the money we've saved, which isn't much, because we've had to pay off student loans and mortgage and things like that. And we haven't paid our mortgage off. We still have car payments. I don't see how I could have a finite amount of money in the bank and that's going to be enough to live on for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. No way. I just don't see it. So for me, I'm planning on still working. But for a lot of individuals, they don't have that ability to. Or they're getting pushed out. You know, they're going to get fired from the federal government any day, or they're going to get pushed out of their job and they're going to be forced into an early retirement. So what do? Well, you need to figure out what makes you tick. So it's very interesting how we don't realize what our life purpose is, and we misconstrue it. So when I was a kid, I didn't really enjoy my childhood too much because it was all about, I got to get the good grades and I have to get a scholarship because my family can't afford college and I want to be the first person to be able to graduate college. So I got to get a scholarship. So it was just all about getting good grades and all I did was study. Okay. It kept me out of trouble, but all of a sudden, I'm out of high school and there goes my teen years. Now I'm in college. Well, in college, it was all about getting into medical school. I need good grades. I also needed to support myself. So I'm working 3 part-time jobs while I'm tutoring and I'm doing secretarial work. I'm working at Jack in the Box. I'm hostessing at a restaurant. I'm just doing all sorts of things until finally luckily, I got into medical school. Well, now I'm in medical school in my 20s. And I have to stay in medical school. You don't want to fail out because I need to get into a residency. So then I have to get into a residency, finally get into a residency. And now I'm 27, 28. So now I got to start my family. I'm married. I got to start having kids before I get deep into my 30s. So now I had my kids. And I'm glad I did. And now it's about the kids. It's about supporting the kids. It's about trying to put money away for their future, put them through a good school, save up for their college. So all of a sudden you get into your 40s and 50s and you're like, okay, when am I going to do stuff now that I want to do? There was a movie that Steve Martin was in years ago. It was called Parenthood. And he was talking to his wife about he's not doing what he wants to. His whole life is he has to. And I know I'm misquoting that, but a lot of time you're looking at what you're doing as you have to. I have to work out. I have to do this. I have to go and see this family member. I have to do this. So all it is are duties. And things we really wanted to do, we didn't do. Like, I want to finish my album. One day I'll do it. Nobody's going to probably want to listen to it, but at least it's something I want to do. I'm working on it. It's called an off-key Christmas because I'm off-key sometimes. It's all about, well, I can't because I got a mortgage and the economy is still bad and I need to save for retirement. So all your days are about doing. And then finally you get to an age or you get a point in your life where you can't work or you just don't work. And now you feel like you're too old to do things you've always wanted to do. So my advice to you is, 1, get out of your head that you're too old to do it. If you want to write a book, you write a book. If you want to get up and sing and entertain people, you get up and sing. If you want to be in show business or broadcasting or whatever, start a show. Even if there's only a couple people listeners. Modern Family, they did an episode where the Ed O'Neill character, Jay, started a broadcast on YouTube, and he had some followers, maybe not a lot, but good for him. If that's something you want to do, if you want to instill wisdom to others, do it. If you feel like your kids and grandkids are going to ignore everything you taught them, make videos that they could use and pass down or write things down that family members, and trust me, they will read it. You might think they don't care about it now, but imagine if my grandfather or great-grandfather had put down advice for me, I would be reading it to you. I don't have anything like that from them. He was in his 60s and he dies of cancer and he's gone. And so think about, 1, things you've always wanted to do, and don't let that depress you. Yes, I've always wanted to ski the Alps. I still could do that if my knees hold up. I love skiing. But if I can't afford to do that, all right, well, do I still want to ski? Then ski. Or I've wanted to learn I know how to scuba dive, but let's say you've wanted to learn how to scuba dive. Okay, take a scuba diving class. Let's say you've wanted to cook. Let's say you've wanted to go to Paris. There's ways to do that where it's cheaper. Remember I told you sometimes it's cheaper to go to Paris by going to London? It might be cheaper for you to get to London, and then you take the train or the tunnel, the Eurostar, into Paris. There are ways to do things. And you're not going to feel fulfilled, and you're not going to want to go to the pearly gates if you don't feel like you've accomplished some of the things you've wanted to. Now, I'm not saying dump your spouse and fall in love with the 20-some-year-old, right? Gorgeous blonde. I don't be doing that. Okay, you still have a family to take care of, etc. But there's a lot of other things in life that if you wanted to experience, you could still experience and you could still do. It doesn't have to be depressing. Now, I understand our health can make things change. Our health could affect our mobility. Our health could affect our sight, our hearing. Well, there's a lot of things out there now that help us with that. And there are tons of things that we could do that could still help us be accomplished and make things happen. And so I really urge you all to, do some reflection. You might have to be careful because there might be a family member that's a what do they call them? Debbie Downers, where, you can't do that. No, we don't have money. No. So you might need to talk to a family member that actually is a little bit more optimistic, and it's not always negative, and say, how can we do this? My husband is the realist and I'm the dreamer. Although sometimes I'm very realistic about things and sometimes he's the dreamer. But I remember telling him, I want to go to Europe. We've never been. I want to do this. We can't afford it. So I'm like, well, there's a will, there's a way. I'm going to prove you wrong. And I found a way where we could do it where it really wasn't that expensive. In fact, I had to prove to him that it was cheaper than going to Hawaii. It was cheaper than going to New York City by the time we got done with everything. So don't think that retirement means you just have to wander around your house and just age. All right. There are things you could do if you want to. And there are things you could do for your loved ones if that's something that drives you. 1-877-Doc-Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we're in flu season, and with flu season, we get peaks and flows. Usually our peak is between end of November to February, but we could get flu all the way till May. Flu season runs from end of October to May. And people always ask about the flu efficacy. How good is our flu shot this year? We are not going to have final data because we're still in our flu season. We do know that it's not as good as last year's. Last year's, it was about 41% effective. This year, they were saying they anticipate it to be about 21% effective. The problem is we're not going to have good numbers because a lot of people are using telemedicine. So they aren't going in and getting swabbed. So we don't have that confirmation that they have flu. And so if they're using telemedicine, and telemedicine doesn't necessarily report that somebody has a flu because we can't document it because it's over the telephone, we didn't swab them, the numbers could be grossly underreported. So, but they are feeling that this year's flu shot is not as good as last year's. A really good year is about 60% effective. Last year, they said it was about 41% effective. This year, 21% effective. And when people ask Dr. Daliah, why aren't we getting 100% effect? Why can't we get a great match? And I tell you this, I've said this before, it's because we have to figure out our flu shot before the Southern Hemisphere's flu season. Southern Hemisphere's flu season is May through November, our time. I guess their time too, because they have May through November, right? Because they're the summer hemisphere. We have to figure out what we're going to give you by February of the year of that. So like for the 2025, 2026 flu season, we have to know what we're going to give you today. Yet the Southern Hemisphere's flu season hasn't even started. So everybody thinks, well, we're going to use the Southern Hemisphere's data. You aren't going to get their data till November. By then it's too late. We have to decide on the shot, approve it, make it, test it, manufacture it, distribute it, and then get it into pharmacies by August. Well, that takes 6 months. So that's why we never really officially have like 100% match. We make the best guess possible. And we have the trivalent, which has 3 strains, or the quadrivalent, which has 4. And we do the best job possible. But a lot of you have seen this article. It's an older study. This came out about 10 years ago, where repeated flu shots may decrease the effectiveness of it working against the flu and in a person. And this is something that, let me just tell you, again, it's an older study. It was published in the CMAJ, JAMC. So this was research that was performed by Canada's Sentinel Physician Surveillance Network, headed by Dr. Danuta Skowronski of the British Columbia Center for Disease. And they said that the effects of repeat immunizations need to be studied further. But they believe that repeated flu shots may blunt the vaccine's effectiveness in subsequent seasons. Now, we have not been seeing it go from 100 to 80 to 70 to 60 to 50 all the way down. We see it wax and wane. Sometimes we're at 60%. I think a few years back, actually, I think when this happened, we were at like 15% efficacy. But then we went back up. I mean, last year, 41%, not bad. So one fault to that sort of theory is we're not seeing every year it go down per se. Sometimes we're seeing us have better efficacy with it. But a very interesting point that I think a lot of people have made is, do humans need to get some natural immunity? Now, with COVID, the reason why we've been able to fight COVID well is because of both vaccine as well as our natural immunity. And natural immunity is nothing that you could replicate in a lab. It is so brilliant in the way our body comes up with an immunity towards something. The problem is when COVID was killing people, and it was killing a lot, and it was pretty scary, we didn't want people to go in there virgins or immunonaive and vulnerable and then die before they could gain immunity. Survival of the fittest and evolution allows populations to survive. Those that can survive these illnesses will make children and progeny that hopefully have the same genes. But we don't want to do survival of the fittest when we have medications. We don't want to see family members die. We want to do full court press. So we've learned that natural immunity as well as vaccine immunity may be the strongest towards COVID. What about flu? Well, I spoke about this on air before. every year I get the flu vaccine, I don't get the flu. So I have been getting the flu shot every year since 2001, because when me and my son got sick with the flu, it was so scary. I'm like, we're not going to mess with it. But I skipped it this year. And I skipped getting the flu shot this year. And I'm not telling you to do it. This was a decision I made. And the reason why I made that decision is there are certain populations of baby boomers and traditionalists who don't seem to get the flu. And we think it's because they might have gotten the 1957 flu or the 1968 flu, was it? Where they were some severe flus that went through the nation and they survived it. And that gave them some long-term immunity. Now, I'm not saying that's why they don't get the flu now, but it's one of the theories that's been postulated. And I had for myself thought that maybe, because I notice I'm combating COVID better. I did get vaccines for COVID, but also I got COVID anyway. So I built some natural immunity. Part of me is wondering if I should, for me, not for you, but this was, I'm being honest, why I skipped it this year, if I should see if I let my immunity build up. And I know that's a very scary thought, for doctors, because nobody wants to tell their patients to build up your immunity and do survival of the fittest. We want you as protected as we can because we know that vaccines work, but there are side effects with vaccines. And what if one of the negative consequences of vaccines is you not building up a better immunity? So, for me, that was a decision I made. And thank God I didn't get the flu this year. Now, my husband did get the flu shot. And he got the flu shot because he had an accident. He broke his clavicle, broke some ribs. And he's like, I can't get the flu and be coughing. So he got the flu shot. So to each their own. This is a personal choice. It should always be personal. If you want to get a COVID vaccine and you and your doctor think it's a good idea for you, we have them, and that's fantastic. Nobody should mandate it. Nobody should force you. Now, some of us are very vulnerable to infectious diseases, and we may be in the population where you should get yourself protected. When these vaccines show there's more benefits than risks, we do recommend them. If you get shingles and you get shingles by the eye and you run the risk of getting blinded, you probably need to be getting the shingles vaccine. I've seen shingles cause horrific morbidity and to see people suffer for years with post-herpetic neuralgia. I think the shingles vaccine is a good idea. I think a lot of these vaccines are good ideas, but we do have to entertain we always have to relook at theories. I know Mitch McConnell says don't relitigate proven cures, but that's what science is about. From what I understand, he's retiring now, so he's not going to seek re-election. He's been going through a lot of issues, but I think the science also has to be relooked at. Do you need to make sure your body is building up some natural immunity, or are the vaccines enough? If the vaccines are enough, that's one thing. But if we're seeing more and more of these studies saying, look, we need to look at natural immunity as well. I hope RFK Jr. and the HHS does look at that. 1-877 Dr. Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.